Now I've got all of the detailed information on that individual. And so when we talk about sources and citations, we're talking about those related to facts that you're putting out there about the person. And the primary ones are like birth, marriage, death, burial, but there's a lot of other things that go out there in terms of facts. So as an example, I have down here on this individual occupation, because from the standpoint of the city directory in 1871, it showed that he was a clerk. Okay, later on in 1880, off of the census, it showed that he was a dry goods clerk. So those are all factual information. They're not vital records, but they're still information about the individual. Now you may choose to either put that information out there or not. That's your choice. That's one of the great things about working with the software programs. It's not like you're locked in and you have to do certain things. It's up to you. This is your information and your file, and each one of us decides how we want to do this. And I will tell you that I am not consistent in all of my people, so it doesn't mean that I've shown the occupation on every individual, but I've kind of, as I felt like it, I did it. And that's the great thing about genealogy. I can do kind of what I want. But when we talk about sources and citations, so let's go down here and I'm going to talk about the marriage. So here's the marriage, and what I've got is I've got a Peoria County marriage license. All right, and if I double click on this, it comes up here and it says this is the marriage license, and then it asks for detail, and I entered this information. Okay, and this is again a variable field that you can put in whatever you want. Okay, now what I did is I put in there that there was a number assigned to this one. It was 4811, so I put that on there just so that I've got a reference. But the other thing that I have out here is that I've got options to put in here reference notes, so which is really a copy off of the source page, but I can do media. Okay, and in this case, what I've got out here is I actually have the a copy of the marriage license, and that's one side of it, and here's the other side of it. It gives all the details. So what I've done is that I've scanned in this into my computer, and then I've added that, and we'll go through talking about that. The other thing that I can do is I can put notes in here. So maybe there was something specific about this marriage that I wanted to add to just the information that's on the marriage license. Maybe I knew that it was a rainy day and they all got flooded out and the reception was canceled, or I could put whatever I want in here. These are just notes. Now, one of the things that you have to remember, I handed out a sheet previously that talked about the things that are carried and not carried forward into Ancestry. So the note may be here in Family Tree Maker, and whether it goes on to Ancestry depends on where it exists. But you can put information in here. So I'll give you an example here on the 1880 census. Now I'll pull this information up, and so the media, there's the copy of the 1880 census from Ancestry, and then there's a note. And I put in here that in 1880 census, it's the same boarding house as William Rich. Now for all of you, you don't know who William Rich is, but William Rich and Madison married sisters. So in 1880, they were both single, okay, and they happened to be living in the same boarding house, so I'm guessing they ran across the sisters one at a time or together or whatever, and eventually they both married sisters. But anyway, that's just a note that you're not going to necessarily find, or you find it in evaluating information on multiple people. Yes, you had a question?
Yes. So if you were to run a report on this person in your database, would these notes come up in that report, like under whom?
So all right, so you're saying that if I go to
Yeah.
like a genealogy report and I do I don't know,
Well, there's a person report.
Okay, all right, so you want to go to a person report.
Let's see.
So you're talking about this individual report,
Yeah.
okay? So now this note it shows here because I put it on the person, okay? But up here, when I take a look at the census, that note doesn't show up there.
Okay, so it's kind of your personal working note in the software.
Right,
Okay.
yep. And so when we go back here to the person, you'll see this is down here in person notes where I had that information. I also put it up here on the specific fact on this source. And I put the note, same note, I just copied it and pasted it there. Okay, and of course I linked my media and we'll talk about that. So on sources, and that's why we always talk about sources and citations, okay? So a source has to do with where you get the information. So I've got a couple of examples here is in family tree meetings, there's a default or basic source, and it looks something like this. And every time you want to add a source and you click on new, so if we go back over here to this page, and if on this census, if I wanted to add something new, I would click on new and I get just a basic template, okay, or default template that Family Tree Maker talks about. And you enter the information like the title, the author, the publisher's name, location, where the source repository, if there's a call number, like you're doing a book and from a library, then you put the call number in there. And then there's a comment section. You can add anything you want. You could say, you know, the book was in terrible shape, it's hard to read, you know, be careful about making copies, or you know, whatever you want to do, you can make a comment in there. Now that's just the source. That's all that this talks about is this source, which is a Canadian census record. The citation then is separate. So when I'm looking at this, I'm taking that source, which was assessment and poll tax records from 1770 to 1795. Now I can put in additional information. So now I can put in about the detail in which, you know, it shows that this was the Commissioner of Public Records of Nova Scotia, volume 443, number 31. So that's all information, again, about the citation I'm making to that source. In citation text is where I can now actually put information about what was included in that citation. Now in this case I didn't put anything in there, but I could have, you know, it could be that they listed the wife and the children, okay, and I could put in there also lists if Ephraim's wife and children, or if they had the names, I could actually say includes wife Anna, children Sam, Mary, Betty, whatever. And this citation text has to do with the information that's included on that particular page, document, you know, whatever it is that you're referencing. So that's the difference between a source and a citation. So again, the source is where you get the information. It could be a book, it could be a web page, it could be a newspaper, and then the citation now gives you details about that particular fact that you're referencing. Because the source, you know, it's the, like in this case, Canadian census records, I could have multiple people that I go back to that same source, but the citation would be different because the citation has to do with this particular fact on this individual. Does everybody understand the difference on source and citation then? So what I've shown right here is basic default source and citation that Family Tree Maker gives you. You have a wealth of specific sources and citations that you can use if you want to use the Elizabeth Schoen Mills. So when I click on here and say new, and I say that this is, I don't want to just use the default, I will click on here and I say new, and I click on more. And when I click on more, it gives me all kinds of references here. And as you can see, it's all based upon evidence explained and everything that the work that she's done. Now, if I want to get specific, I can go in here, and now I want to go to census records. So I double click on census records, and I go down here to category. And is this an original manuscript I'm looking at, a digital image, microfilm, or a derivative? Well, this is a digital image, if I'm getting it off of like Ancestry, all right? So I click on that, then that says, now what template do you want to use? Because I've decided in this particular case, I don't want to use that basic template, I want to be specific according to Elizabeth, all right? So now I go down here, and what I've got is, I've got online, let's see, because these are all United States, so this one would be a online commercial site. Is that right? Everybody agree on that?
Yeah.
It's not France, it's not the UK, it's not a DVD from the United States. So this is specific by year and location. All right, so I click on that and click OK, and now you'll see this thing's changed. Okay, so now it not only asks for the census year, because remember the basic one didn't do that. It just said, where'd you get it, who was the publisher, just some basic information. This one now says, what's the census year, the country, the state. It asks for more specific information in your source. So if I go over here to my Word example, so here it is, and so now, if I go back up, sorry about that. If I go back up here in the generic one, all I've typed in was Nova Scotia, Canada. It came from Ancestry, publisher's location, Provo, Utah, 2013, and it came from Ancestry.com. Now if I go down to this specific one that is established for census records, online census records, it now says, well, first of all, what's the year? So I got to put the year in there that was on this. And remember that the source on this was a range of years. Okay, it was like 1767 to 1827. But for this particular one, it's 1770 on this person. It is Canada, it's Nova Scotia. County, I didn't see where it identified a county, but it did define this as Halifax, which is the capital of Nova Scotia, the biggest city. The schedule now is the assessment of poll tax records. The website was Ancestry, and I could put in here the URL or the year the website was created or copyrighted, and I didn't know what that was. But anyway, so now you'll see that the source information I'm collecting and recording on this particular example is different. It's still the same source. I can still go back and see that they both came from Ancestry. I know that that's the assessment of poll tax records. But now on this particular template, I've met, quote unquote, the requirements of Elizabeth Schoen Mill as far as what she says you need to record for census records. And then of course my citation looks pretty much the same. It's a little bit different since I now have the detail information, and you'll notice that the source title now is 1770 Census of Canada. Whereas the first one, my source was, well, it gave a default, so it didn't have a source template in there. So do you see the difference between using the default template and a specific template according to evidence explained? Now then, the big decision on this is, what do you want to do? Okay? I'll have to admit, because of, I guess, my own timing and what I feel that I want to do, I have used, in probably 90+% of the cases, I've used the default template, because it allows me to identify where that source came from, allows me to put enough information in there. It means that I'm not meeting all of the requirements of evidence explained, but again, each of us has a choice as to what we want to do. But if you want to be specific and follow that guidance, I suppose it's very important if I were a certified genealogist doing work for other people. That would be one of the things that I probably want to do, would be to follow the templates, because I assure my client that I am doing things according to the sort of the Bible on sources, which is Elizabeth Show Mills. So any questions then on that? So you can use the basic template, default template from Family Tree Maker, and it'll have the information that you need to be able to support it, because that's what all of us want to do, is make sure that the facts that we put out on an individual, that we can go back and say, here's where we got the information, and you can prove it. You either prove it by being able to go back to that source, or you prove it because you've made a copy. As an example, in this case on Madison, that I had copies of like a census record, I have copies of a marriage license, I have copies of a death certificate. So I don't necessarily have to go back to the source, but I always say where I got it from. Yes?
Would you spell the name of Elizabeth?
Shown Mills, SHOWNMILLS. And her book is Evidence Explained, and we have copy in the library, so if you want to look at it in detail, she goes through each one of these.
Yeah.
So all of these templates that are in here, and I just showed you one which had to do with a census record, and then you saw we had choices even on census records of what we could choose to be able to record the information.
She has an online site too that you could go to.
Good.
And she has a quick sheet, and her book
Yeah.
is on Ancestry.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's got a lot.
So, the other thing that I want to mention on sources and citations is that
Let's say Ancestry.
sort of after you leave here,
Mhm.
you're going to say, whoa, I can't remember exactly what was covered on some of these things. There's two things. Number one, here in the library and here in the society, we have a copy of the companion guide. But you don't have to buy this unless you want the book, okay? Because you all have it. So if I go to help, you'll see companion guide, and here it is, all 350 pages. It's exactly the same thing that's in this book. So when you're at home and you go, oh, I want to go down here and I'm thinking about, these sources and citations and, what do I want to do here? I can go right in here, oops, right by it. So here's documenting your research, and I just click on this and it takes me right to the page, and here it goes through and talks about sources and citations. Yes?
On one of the older versions that we have, there were two different books. One was the standard book and one was a more advanced book. Is this a standard or a more advanced?
This is the only book that I know of on 2017.
Okay.
And there will be, when 2019 comes out, there'll be a 2019 book. And again, is in your software, it will be there. But some people like to read books and have the paper in front of you and be able to reference it while I'm trying to do something here. And that's fine, and you could do that. Or if you want to come into the library and review it, you can't check it out. But if you want to come here and use it, you can. Just making sure that everybody understands that in the help file, right here is the companion guide, which is the same thing. Okay, the other thing on sources has to do with ancestry. And so when you go to Ancestry, here's the same person, Madison, and here are all the facts, and then it lists all of the sources. And so the information that I have in Family Tree Maker, because I sync my file, it's replicated here, and so that same information is there, other than notes, okay? Because remember, there are certain things that aren't carried forward, and notes has to be That happens to be one of those. But when I take a look at searching for records, and I've already done Madison, but to show you is that when you do this search, and it comes up with different things. So like here's a city directory that I haven't looked at. If I've already copied a particular source and that citation information to my ancestry record, which eventually ends up in Family Tree Maker through Sync, then it's listed here. 11 records are already in my tree. But these records down here are not. And so if I want to say that, well, I want to add this one on Madison, then all I do is I click on it, and I go up here and I do a save, and I save it to Madison because I'm already on his record. I don't have to change that. I save it to my tree. And now when I go back here, then this 1913 record shows there as residence. And there's the city directory, and there's the page in the directory, and here's Madison, wife Catherine, and they're living at 1000 North Madison Avenue. Okay? So when I go back to Family Tree Maker and now do a sync on this, what it'll do is it's going to go through and it's going to look for any changes that occurred on Ancestry. It looks for any changes that occurred in Family Tree Maker. And now it's going to put the two of them in sync. So if I did something in Family Tree Maker, it'll now be reflected on Ancestry. And if I did something in Ancestry, which y'all just saw, we added a city directory. Now there's just one thing that's changed here. The 1 and 1 means for only one person, which was Madison, one citation was added. If I want to look at it, I can go here to View Print Details, and it actually shows me what it was. It's the 1913, and so that's put that in there as a new citation. I could print this if I want. But anyway, I just do a continue, and now I'm back in sync. So let's go look at Madison, and you'll see that here, 1913, there's that city directory. And so it's already, there's the media again, same thing we looked at on Ancestry. So on this one, I don't have to do anything additional. It's put my source out there. So I double click on it, and here's the source, US City Directories. What I could do, if I wanted to, I could now go in here to citation detail, and I could say page number 155, or wherever that page is on there. I could also add in the citation text, shows wife Catherine, or shows some other information. I don't have to do the media because it's already included on there. I could add notes if I wanted to. Yes?
When you put the media there, is it going to show down here at the bottom where the person media?
No, because what is showing down here under media is something at the person level, not at the fact level.
Okay.
So what I put down here would be like a picture of the person, because it applies to all of them, unless I guess I wanted to show a picture of birth or a picture of marriage or things like that. I could do that. But anyway, basically, these are things that have to do with the person overall, versus on a specific fact, there is media associated with that fact. So, a good example is a vital record. So when I go down and I look at death down here, you'll see that I've got the Peoria County Certificate of Death, and there's the media, which is his death certificate.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, so I just wanted to be able to show that, so when you add, you're in Ancestry and you find something, oh yes, I want to keep that. You save it to the individual, and then the next time you sync, it's gonna show up in Family Tree Maker. So you don't have to go in there and add it manually, but you can embellish it. Like I showed, I could go in there and add the page number, or I could add additional notes that I want about whatever that source was, as far as giving citation detail. Okay? Now, there's other things that I can do in terms of adding media to source citations. So, as an example on this, find a grave, I've got the find a grave out there and media, and I've got nothing out there. So one of the things I could do is I could put the photo of the tombstone associated with that. But that's not really associated with the death, okay? It just so happens that Find a Grave does support the death date because it's in the Find a Grave record. But if I go to burial and now go to Find a Grave, and now I probably do want to put the picture of the tombstone in associated with the burial. And so I can go out here and I can say, I want to attach new media, and I can go up here to cemeteries, and I'll go down here to Springdale, and now I'm going to go down to Madison Horton, click on that, open it, and when you have a choice now when you add this media. So I'm taking it from a file on my computer where, you know, what I've got is I've got a directory with all the different cemeteries listed separately, and then in each cemetery then I've got copies of the tombstones. All right, but that's on my computer. So now I want to put this associated in Family Tree Maker. I have a choice here. I can copy the file into the media folder, or I can link to this file where it is without copying it. My recommendation is you do the first one, copy. It means it's going to be out on your computer twice, because it's going to be in your personal file, and it's also going to be in Family Tree Maker media. But the advantage is that if you ever want to share this file with someone else, they don't get all of your records unless you decide to give them to them. You're only going to give them the family tree. And so that link would be broken, because unless they have access to your computer, they can't get to it. So my recommendation is you copy the file, and then this is on a vital record because it was a burial, and I click OK, and so now here's the copy of the tombstone of Madison that it's associated with the burial. And I click OK, and so now there it is.
Oh, neat.
Okay, any questions on that? Yes?
If you wanted to add a category like land patents or land grants to add media, how do you do that?
I want to add a category of, tell me what I'm doing here.
You brought up a list and it had audio and cemeteries and so forth.
Create your own category.
Like
Your own category for media.
Start that with a fact.
So in media, okay, I can, it's got all photo and stories,
Okay.
okay? So under photos, it goes by JPEG or whatever. Now I can create groups, and, you know, I can assign things to a group. But I guess my question would be, what do you,
Where you had the list, like cemeteries and so forth down to vital records.
You mean
no,
create a
that's
new
in my file.
Okay.
So up here, I've got all my genealogy records together,
Okay.
and so, as an example, we've been working on Horton, so I'll give you, so here's Horton family info. I've got articles that I've copied from different things
Okay.
about people in the Horton family. These are all the census records that I've copied over. There's documents, and documents would be primarily things like will, probate, maybe some newspaper articles, ebooks. These are all the ebooks that I've copied from all kinds of different sites that all are related. Then I've got pictures, and then I've got vital records, okay? And so these are all of the birth, marriage, death records on all these people. Separately, I have put cemeteries, and it's just because cemeteries cross people, they cross families. I mean, whoever gets buried in a cemetery gets buried. I mean, you don't have any control over that. So on cemeteries, I do it by the name of the cemetery. So in this case, well, there's only one person in that. Let's do this with Baptist Corners and Spencer. So I've got the primary, the Crum family, although Charlotte was a Crum and married a Hines, but I put in there the people based upon the cemetery. And then I can then copy that into media on that particular person in the burial fact in the individual's record in Family Tree Maker. So that's my cross-reference. Yes?
When you uploaded that tombstone to the burial source,
Mhm.
so you added a media to your source or fact.
Yep, to the fact, yep.
When you sync with Family Tree Maker, does that media then go into the gallery?
So
Or,
let's go over here. Well, I could have just done it there, but anyway. So we go to, back to Madison, and I look at the gallery. Okay, and there's the tombstone.
thank you.
Here's the different census records. There's his death certificate. There's the marriage license. Here's the city directories that I've gotten off of.
So is that then gonna be the only place that it shows up on Family Tree Maker?
The only place, well, I mean, it's only gonna show on Madison because it's associated with
For him.
Madison, but if I go down here to.
Oh, it does show
Yes.
there, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on that? So you have control over this, and it's up to you to manage your own work. But what this does is it enables you a certain amount of flexibility, I guess is the way to say it. That you can choose to do this or you can choose not to. That's up to you. But the more information, whether it's typing in information, copying information from Ancestry, or getting information from other sites like Family Search or Fold3 or wherever it is Family Tree Maker allows you to capture that information. There's very few things that sort of you can't do, or it may be manual entry of things, but you have the choice on that. In the same way that with the green lease, you can decide whether you're gonna resolve all those, Carla, right?
Yes.
But this is all your choice, but each of us spends hundreds or thousands of hours doing our research.
Shamelessly.
And you really want to protect it. And you protect it by recording information under a particular process or procedure. And some of that is set for you within the software. And some of it you have choices as to how you want to do that. But the key is record your information, because now you've got it, at least another form protected. So like at home, I still have files at home. They've got original photos in there. Copies of vital records are in there, but I also have those same things out here. So I've got them backed up, at least from electronic media. And then, of course, I've got my electronic media backed up multiple different places, so in case something ever happens. So each of those, you want to be able to make sure that you keep up to date on a regular basis. Okay, so sources and citation, I've done an awful lot of talking this morning. I want to hear from you all about your work on sources and citations. Any additional comments you want to make or questions you have? Yes, sir.
Okay, say you go out to another state or wherever, go to the courthouse to get a marriage certificate. How would you, since you bought it, would you put in there where you got it? Or do you just like make a file that it's yours?
So, example is right here. So this is the marriage license that I got. I went to the courthouse
Okay,
in Peoria, and so I just record down here that it's a Peoria County marriage license.
okay.
All right, that's my source. And there are probably multiple Peoria County marriage licenses I have because
Mhm.
my family was in Peoria for a while, so. And I enter this information and then I scan the paper copy
Right,
and make a copy in my computer that I then associate with this record.
okay. Do you put anywhere that you're the one that got it from there or not?
I haven't,
Okay,
I mean, I could
Yeah,
very
that's
easily,
what I
I could
was
put this in
doing.
notes, right here in
Yes,
notes. I could
okay.
put that this was obtained by P.Z. Horton on
Certain
July
date, okay.
5th, 1970, or something like that.
I
Sure.
did that right then.
Yep, you could. Yes, sir.
Couldn't you just scan it from the court records straight into your software, or do you need a copy?
If they have it in electronic form, I could do that.
You have to pay for that, wouldn't you?
Depends. I found that every county is different. I've had counties in California that are so rigid, they wouldn't even let me make copies of my wife's family. I had to have an affidavit letter from her allowing me to have access to her family records. I've been other places, like up in New Hampshire, that I go into this little city clerk's office that, you know, it's piled up everywhere, you know, you wonder if this is the junk room or whatever, and ask about making copies, and they share, yeah, come on right here, come on in the corner, just sit right here, you know, do what you want. I mean, it all depends. So some of them, they're not automated. Like I said, when I went up there to Hinsdale, New Hampshire, they're not automated, okay? Maybe at the county level, they may have a little bit more money, but the city doesn't. And so I've got to show you on that. Let me go down here to let's see. Let me find a birth record here. So there's the record. It's not transcribed anywhere, okay? It's not electronic. It's the original writing of the document, and that's all there is.
And it's hard to read.
Yep. And so they allowed me to make a copy of that. There are other places say, no, you can't touch that, we'll have to make it for you, it's a $5 charge and all this. Hinsdale, New Hampshire, just come on down. Come on in, just do what you need to do. There, you know, so every place, whether it's a county or a city record, is gonna be different. Back to answer, which I think I did, if they have copies electronically, then yes, I don't necessarily need to go to paper copy. But so many places, what you end up with is a paper copy. In Peoria, Illinois, you go to the county clerk's office there, you can go in and look at the books, and you find out that this death certificate was in book A, page 25, and then you fill out a form, book A, page 25, and you hand them the sheet of paper, And then they go make the copy for you. And then they bring it back, and then you pay them $5 or whatever the fee is. And now I have a paper copy of a birth certificate, death certificate, whatever it is.
Well, I was thinking of the high-tech cell phones. And send it to myself.
Yep, yep.
If they'll let you do it.
Yeah.
Some places won't let
Some
you do it.
will
Oh, they won't let you do it?
Right.
Some
Some
places will
places
not.
Okay.
Yep. I had a little handheld scanner that I
Mhm.
bought. Looked like a big pencil. And I could just go in there and just swipe it across the
Yes.
page and I've got it, right? Nope, can't do that. You're touching the document. You're not allowed to do that. Things with taking photographs, whether it's with a cell phone or a camera, as long as you can do it without using flash, they'll let you do it. You can't use flash, because that flash light, the light from the flash can have an effect on the original document. So, the McClung Library over in Knoxville, when you go into that library, you can take a blank sheet of paper and a pencil, and that's it. I can't even take my computer in with
Really?
me. I can't, I mean, nothing. So, that's one of the things you'll learn as you go around, is that all these places are a little bit different.
Call ahead.
Yeah.
Find out.
Yes, sir?
I tried to get a copy of my grandfather's death certificate and went to Nashville, and they gave me a piece of paper to fill out, and it said, "Do you want a short form or long form?" So I clicked long form, and they took it and everything, and 10, 15 minutes, came back and said, "You can't have it." Well, the paper, the long form has the cause of death, and you have to be a spouse or a son to get that. So I had to go back and fill it out again and take the short form.
Yep. Yep.
And what difference does
And there's places where, I've got some where it's imprinted across the front for genealogical purposes only.
Mhm.
So they make sure that you're not trying to go get a social security card on that person. There's so much that's been involved around identity theft now that a number of places they're really tightening up. And, that's, makes it hard on us from a genealogical standpoint. I have an understanding though, from a identity theft standpoint, you gotta kind of balance that out. But it's tough to do research some places. Yes, ma'am?
Two-part question, related. In 2019, are there changes with respect to source and citations? And secondly, the update on 2019?
So on 2019, I'll do the second one first.
Okay.
And that is the update. They're in the final testing. They've asked for additional testers. They haven't contacted me yet, but I've offered to be a tester. I was a tester on 2014 and 17, but maybe they didn't like my comments or something. They haven't asked me for 2019, but it's supposed to be coming out, I think, within the next month, because they're down to the last couple of weeks.
Well, they've said
They've gone
imminent
through
for
their
months.
primary testers. They're now looking to expand it out to a number more people, just to make sure that somebody doesn't come up with something unique. But that should be out fairly soon. As far as what's new, I think I sent this out to everybody. This is the document as far as what's going on in there. One of the things here, and this may answer your question about deleting somebody, is that it says that it will keep track of every one of the last 1,000 changes you made to your tree. Now, to me, it says you can even roll back those changes if you need to correct a mistake. So if you've deleted a person and you go, oops, I didn't mean to do that, apparently, under this, what they're saying, is you'll be able to do that. Now, I haven't tested it, so I can't say, although I couldn't tell you anything anyway. But, so anyway, it looks like that you'll be able to do that. Family search integration, there's gonna be new things there. It said, when they first did it, it only provided family tree hints. 2019, you'll have access to historical record hints. So, the hints that they gave you before having to do with family trees were sort of okay, but you gotta remember that family trees put out online are only as good as what the person did in putting out that tree. You can't, it's not gospel. You can't just automatically assume that that's correct. But now, being able to get historical records is great, because just like with Ancestry, where you can go directly and find the census record for that person and be able to save that, with Family Search, they're gonna be able to do that on their records. Hints in the index. So right now in 2017, get rid of this, go to the tree. So here's your index. And the only thing right now it shows is color if you've used color coding. In 2019, it's also going to show hints. So when I'm going down the list of index, if I want to, I can be able to do that. And also allows me with the smart filters to be able to then narrow that down and be able to pull out records. Folder counters, stop peeking into fold to see if there's anything there. The numbers on your tabs now show the number of items. Now what they're talking about is you got facts, media, and notes, and it says that I got 23 facts, of which 14 have media items associated with it. Profile picture cropping. You scan a picture, and if, depending upon your photo software that you have on your computer, you can do cropping and, and different things with it. Just depends on what you have. But what they're doing now is they're saying you can do cropping within the Family Tree Maker. So you can pull up that media item, the photo, and be able to crop it and reduce all of this unnecessary background image. In this case, it's done around Jackie, and you'll be able to do that. Tree browser, get what you're looking for quickly, wherever your trees may be. Ancestry hard drive, you'll find them in one place in an easy-to-use search tool. So apparently you can go through and search for a particular person, and it tells you that this person is on Ancestry and they're in your family tree. Rich color coding. We've had color coding, and of course, being colorblind, it's only helpful to me to a certain extent. Have any of y'all used color coding? Okay, a couple of y'all have. Is it helpful to you?
One of my questions.
Once I know what I'm looking at, yeah.
Okay.
It's nice to know which person it is that's your direct person. But I'd also like to know if you can spread it out so that it goes to the siblings of your relatives.
So you can do descendants. So if you go to the parent and do descendants, then you'd get siblings.
And would it then go to the descendants of the siblings?
Yeah.
Or can you
Those
just
are
stop at the
descendants of the-
descendants of your siblings?
It would keep going from wherever that is. It go as many generations as you got out there.
Well, what I did was, I would say the father's red, the mother's yellow, and you branch off on this father's side, everything's gonna have a red code with it saying it's from that line, and then whoever that person married wouldn't be the same color as the yellow from the original parent.
Mhm.
So the original parent is either red or yellow, and then you give each line a different shade, and you know which way you're going.
Right.
That's what I do.
Is the color by the surname?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's based, yeah, well,
Yeah,
yes,
yes.
basically, it's based upon that line,
Yeah.
bloodline.
So if my grandmother married a guy, her mother, I would track with a different color. And the guy that she married, I would track in a different color.
So generations.
Yes, but I wouldn't get away from the original parents' business. And that way I could see where everybody's going.
Yeah. Yep.
But they don't have that many colors.
That's true. And then
Well,
some
you
of them
got,
merge together.
looks like you got 16 that you can do here.
Oh, 4, okay, 4.
So, Tree Vault Cloud Services, you pay for it, but what it does is that it gives you cloud backup for your family tree maker, if that's what you want, versus making a copy and then taking that backup copy and putting it on a cloud service as a multi-step process. You sign up for Tree Vault and it does it automatically. I'm not quite sure about historical weather. Maybe that's important.
Fine.
But to know what the weather was on a particular day, I guess it's interesting. I guess that's part of that. If you're doing a story on your ancestors, writing a book or whatever, and as they put here is that James Smith was born March 1st, but with historical weather, there was a cold driving rain on that windy morning when he was born. I guess that just depends.
Dark and stormy night.
Yes.
Next to kin service, one of the things that isn't addressed a lot, and that has to do with, all of us are not immortal, so at some point, we're all gonna have our demise. And the question is, what happens to your information? Now, a lot of people have wills, and depending upon to what extent you want to be specific in your will, what happens to things. But there's been a lot of discussion about genealogical papers, research. Who do they belong to? Who do you want them to go to? Within the society, we've had different discussions about people that, when none of the kids want any of it, does it get thrown out? Or does it actually end up in a library or things like that? Well, just from an electronic standpoint, the next of kin service allows you to specify a beneficiary that says, if you died, then, John Smith is my beneficiary and now has access to that information that's out there in the Tree Vault. But separately from this Tree Vault service, it is something that you all need to think about as far as what happens. I know that when my mom died, my sister and I were going through photos and all this type of thing, and I'll tell you, it's a mess. Because when you take a look at things that aren't properly documented, a lot of that stuff gets fixed. Because here's a picture of 4 people, you recognize your mother in the picture and who the other 3 people are, you got no idea. It's from 1943 or something like that. And what do you do with it? So, anyway, thinking about those things is still important for y'all to do. So, that's kind of what's supposed to be the highlights. Yes?
I haven't been on my family tree forever, and I got on it yesterday. And I never downloaded the first time. And there were so many questions and so many things that I didn't know what to click on, and are you sure, and do you want, and all this. I just closed it down. Now, should I wait for the 2019 that you say is coming out and just not download anything, just work
When you
with
say
what I have?
download, what do you mean by?
Well, when it first came out, they're gonna download the 2017 or something.
So you're saying,
What was the most recent download?
17.
You haven't installed it?
so you're saying you haven't installed the
And I
software?
never did, I never did do that,
Well, do you have a laptop?
yeah.
If you and I can arrange a time, you bring in your laptop, and I'd be happy to help you get it installed.
Okay, cause it was too much information.
Okay,
Okay, I would be glad to do that, I
Okay.
would be thankful. Okay.
yep, we've done it before, right, Elaine?
Yes.
I thought it was very
I just have
confusing.
a problem uploading from Ancestry to my family tree maker.
So you have a tree on Ancestry
Yep.
and not on
Well, I
Family
have
Tree
it,
Maker?
the family tree maker program,
Mhm.
and when I put in the tree to upload, it won't find it. It says it can't find it.
Oh, been there.
And it's, I've, on 2000, well, a few back, I had no problem uploading
Okay, so you go into new tree, right?
it, okay?
And you want to import an existing tree
Yes.
or download a tree from Ancestry?
Mm-hmm.
Which?
Download.
Download. So we're gonna download a tree from Ancestry. And of course, for me, it's gonna show me, so you're saying your tree didn't show up here?
I haven't done it that way. I've done import, I think, from an existing tree.
Okay, so import from an existing tree is different because this
Yes.
says, I've actually got my own electronic copy from a previous version of Family Tree Maker or a GEDCOM file.
Right. So it's easier to do the download from Ancestry?
If you've got a tree on Ancestry, that's what I do.
Okay, I'll try that then.
Yep.
Thank you.
Now, there
There's
is
a
another
difference.
option you have, which is a little bit, it's a multi-step process.
Right, right.
And you could, it's not as good as downloading the tree directly. But if you have a problem with that, you could create a GEDCOM file
Mhm.
of your tree on Ancestry and then import that GEDCOM file into Family Tree Maker.
Okay.
But to me, that's the whole thing here about downloading a tree from Ancestry is that it'll do it just like a regular sync,
Okay. I
okay?
used to have it on there
Yep.
when I went
Now,
back
when
to
you
17.
do that, you have to make sure that you're going to, you make sure that you understand the names of the trees.
Right.
Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Because if it's the Smith tree, okay, or is it the Smith-Johnson tree, or is it Smith tree parentheses version 2, or, just make sure that you got the right tree.
Well, I did it easy for myself. Everything's under one tree.
Okay.
Instead
Well,
of
over a
having-
period of time, people can create multiple
Yes, I know.
versions of your family tree, and you gotta make sure that which one is the either most current or the one you trust the most, I guess
Mhm.
is the way to say it.
You're saying
Okay.
import is slightly different than download?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I download a tree from Ancestry, it's actually just like a sync. It's going out there and looking at the records and comparing it to what I've got, and if I'm doing a new tree, then I got nothing on the Family Tree Maker side, and it's gonna just suck everything in and create a tree, all right? If I import an existing tree, it has to be a Family Tree Maker from a previous version. It could be a PATH file. Anybody still using PATH?
No.
It
He's
could be a
making fun of
legacy
me.
family tree, or it could be a GEDCOM. Okay?
What about my heritage? I don't see that there.
Now, if you have something on MyHeritage, and you can create a GEDCOM file for MyHeritage.
GEDCOM file.
Yep.
Okay.
GEDCOM is sort of like a standard transferable file of information that allows you to transfer information from one type of software to another. So I can create a GEDCOM file of my Family Tree Maker, because I do this. I create a GEDCOM file, and then I can take that GEDCOM file and then import it into Roots Magic, Legacy, MyHeritage, where it's kind of a
GEDCOM
standard.
file.
It's text, though, not